All right, so you just learned the story of miracle rice now, and what it means. So I was looking at this book. This is the 1998 uh, version of your textbook from Michael Meyerfield Bell, and this is the 2009 version of the textbook from Michael Meyerfield Bell. Those are the two I have with me in my bunker here. The latest edition, the Bell and Ashwood edition, is somewhere in my office that I can't get into because we were kicked off campus and they changed the locks on the building, so like my key doesn't even work to the building anymore. So anyway, that's not neither here nor there. But Bell talked about this whole story, right, of Miracle Rice back in the 1998 version of the book. When he got to the 2009 version, that story sort of goes away, right? But he does mention it. He does talk. He does mention it. He mentions Miracle Rice. So I wanted to read what he says. Okay, here. So this is the if you have I don't know if you have this copy or not, but if you have this one, it's on page 101, and this is right before he talks about the Boserup effect. So whatever version of the book you have, maybe you can find it. I doubt there are many of you that have this one, but this is one I still kind of work out of, even though that some of his examples are maybe a little bit dated. Although I think the Miracle Rice story is historically important and very illustrative of the kinds of things we're talking about. But here's what he says. He says, take, for example, increasing food production. During the 1960s and 70s, intensification of agriculture swept through the developing countries, a transformation often called the Green Revolution. Mechanization, irrigation, pesticides, a tenfold increase in fertilizer use, the introduction of high-yielding hybrids, rural road construction to open up new areas for clearing and cultivation. These practices allowed world grain production to increase 2.6-fold between 1950 and 1984. The per capita world grain harvest rose by 40%. Much of the gain was in rice, the centerpiece of the diet of billions, and much of that due to a wonder variety known widely as miracle rice, developed by the International Rice Research Institute. Okay, so that's the sum of what he says in the newer version about miracle rice. And then he goes on. So in the next paragraph he says, but since then the tale is not as pretty, and especially with rice. Between 1990 and 2007, global rice production has risen just 13.8% for an annual growth rate of 0.81%, less than the current world population annual growth rate of 1.17%. So let's stop there for a second. So what he's saying here at this time, when this book is coming out, that world rice production, the rate of increase of the world rice crop is actually lagging behind I don't know if you heard zombies barking at something. The increase of the world rice crop is actually lagging behind the rate of population growth. Okay. Um, all right, so let's continue then. So Bell says, plus, the world's fastest population growth rates are generally in rice-dependent regions. Concern for the future of rice led the United Nations to declare 2004 the International Year of Rice in hopes of stimulating yields. Meanwhile, per capita yield of all grain worldwide has been falling since the mid 1980s. Researchers at the World Watch Institute suggest that the declining responsiveness of crops to further fertilization as well as soil erosion, the conversion of grain land to non-farm uses, and spreading water scarcity is limiting the growth of grain production. Okay, so that's the problem. Sounds a little bit like Malthus, right? Population rate growing faster than the rate at which we can produce food. But Malthus really doesn't look at the social reasons for that, right? Including the idea that much land is being, much agricultural land is being converted over to non-farming uses and so on. Okay, now he goes on to say this. Let's continue here. And here's what Bell says. He says, Will new biotech varieties like golden rice and BT rice, so those are genetically modified varieties of rice. So when he's talking about miracle rice and he's talking about the Green Revolution, those were hybrids. Those were hybridizations of rice, right? Now, and then the whole story of miracle rice is about the consequences of adopting those hybrids. So now the question becomes, well, what are going to be the consequences of adopting these genetically modified varieties, right, of different crops, including rice? So he says, will new biotech varieties like golden rice and BT rice eventually bring yield boosts of rice and other grains back to at least matching population growth? Can sustainable methods provide us with a way to boost yields without the negative effects of the Green Revolution techniques? And then he says, well, I guess we have to hope so. Now, I want to move ahead a little bit here, where he says, as he comes to the end of his discussion of Esther Boserup, he says, new production strategies bring new consequences. Right? New production strategies bring new consequences. Equally important, because of the pressure to increase environmental yields quickly, more intensive production often proceeds by increasing the overall level of resource use rather than by increasing the efficiency of resource use. That's an important line, right? I'm going to read it again. Equally important, because of the pressure to increase environmental yields quickly, more intensive production often proceeds by increasing the overall level of resource use rather than by increasing the efficiency of resource use. Sometimes efficiency even declines, resulting in soil erosion, soil degradation, deforestation, and water shortages. Moreover, the efficiency gains can set off a paradox so that people wind up running faster on a treadmill of underproduction, not stepping off it. Okay, that's I think that's a good quote, but I wanted to read one more line in there, right, where he says, sometimes efficiency even declines, resulting in soil erosion, soil degradation, deforestation, and water shortages. All right, now I'm going to wrap all this up, keeping all that in mind, right? Keep all that in mind. In fact, especially what I just read while I'm stalling to find my place in my notes here. And I found it. Right. But here you go, one more time. Come on in close. Okay. Sometimes efficiency even declines, resulting in soil erosion, soil degradation, deforestation, and water shortages. Right? Now, what did we start with? What did we start all this stuff off with back in part 1 of my little video series here? Okay, it was this. It was Karl Marx, right? It was Karl Marx. Karl Marx talking about agriculture in a capitalist society, right? And he said, here you go. All progress in capitalist agriculture is progress in the art not only of robbing the worker, but of robbing the soil. All progress in increasing the fertility of the soil for a given time is progress toward ruining the long-lasting sources of that fertility. The more a country proceeds from large-scale industry as the background of its development, the more rapid is this process of destruction. Capitalist production, therefore, only develops the techniques and the degree of combination of the social process of production by simultaneously undermining the original sources of all wealth, the soil and the worker. Okay, now, here's Bell. Right. Sometimes efficiency even declines, resulting in soil erosion, soil degradation, deforestation, and water shortages. What are they? What are those things that Bell listed in that quote, if not things that are describing the ruining of the long-lasting sources of the fertility of the land? Okay, so we've come full circle, right? Come full circle. And it's a really good, I think, illustration of how in always seeking technological answers to problems that in solving one problem, we create other problems we get this multiplication of problems that are just as serious as the problem that we started out to solve in the first place. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that. We'll get back to you. I'm gonna come up with a little reading list for you. So I'm gonna really abbreviate the reading list, and maybe we'll do another lecture or two, and try to get through this stuff here. All right, and remember. All right. Oh, I can't. It's like looking in a mirror. Remember. Oh, lava tus manos. Lava tus manos. Okay. Take care, y'all. Peace.